The Russian passport is a legal document issued to the citizens of the Russian Federation for the purposes of traveling abroad. The Russian Federation currently issues two types of passports: non-biometric and biometric. Non-biometric passports are currently valid for 5 years. Biometric passports issued after the 1st of March 2010 are valid for 10 years and have an increased number of pages from 36 to 46, due to the exclave position of Kaliningrad Oblast, which makes a passport an essential document at any age. Citizens residing there are exempt from any fees for passport issue. The right of Russian citizen to leave the country can be temporarily restricted if he had signed a contract with the government allowing access to state secrets with provision restricting his/her right to leave the country, until the restriction is lifted as specified in the contract, has been conscripted to the military or alternative civil service until the completion of service, is a defendant under criminal prosecution until the verdict is reached, is convicted of a crime until completion of serving time or acquittal, is avoiding obligations imposed by the court until fulfilling the obligations or achieving consent between the parties, provided false information in his/her application until the situation is deemed resolved by the processing agency, is employed by the Federal Security Service until the expiration of contract, has been declared bankrupt until the settlement is reached by the Court of Arbitration. Individuals under 18 traveling without both parents must have written consent of both parents allowing the departure from country. When a child travels with one parent, consent of another parent is not required. Articles 20 and 21 of the Federal Law on the Entry in the Russian Federation and Departure from the Russian Federation govern only departure from Russia and have nothing to do with the requirements of other countries regarding entry to these countries. In addition to regular passport, there are 3 special purpose types of passports for traveling abroad: diplomatic passport, service passport and seaman's passport. History: Russian Empire. Arrival of foreigners to Russia met with various restrictions in the Tsarist period. Border magistrates could pass foreigners within the state only, with the permission of senior government. In troubled times, it begins to produce and to travel within the country system, roadways, letters in order, mainly police. As a general rule, letters carriageways were built by Peter I in connection with the entered his conscription and head tax. In 1724, to prevent the possibility to evade the payment of the poll tax, special rules about absences of peasants. Under the legislation in force for the period of 1906 in Russia, in the place of residence, as a general rule, the passport is not required. The exception is the capital and other cities declared an emergency situation or enhanced protection. In addition, in areas that are subject to the rules on the supervision of industrial establishments, the workers of factories and plants are required to have a passport, and in the place of permanent residence, you do not need a passport when absent from the place of permanent residence. 1. Within the district and outside it as recently as 50 events and no more than 6 months, and 2. For the persons hired for rural work. In addition, within the townships adjacent to the county of residence, even if more than 6 months. Law of June 10, 1902 to the Regulations on Residence Permits June 3, 1894 extended to the province of the Kingdom of Poland, with some modifications. Formed in 1902, the Committee on the Needs of the Agricultural Industry is recognized as desirable in the types of facilitating the movement of agricultural workers. The simplification of passport regulations. A special meeting of the needs of the agricultural industry has been entrusted to the Minister of Internal Affairs of the revision of statutes on residence permits, in the sense of saving for a passport's early value of an identity document. Elaborated on these grounds in 1905, a new draft statute was a passport to postpone consideration until the convocation of the State Duma, Russian Soviet Federative Socialist Republic. Immediately after the Russian Revolution, the Russian Republic not followed the emigration. Many disagreed with the new regime left the country since 1917 to the end of the 1920s left the country about 8,000 people, including about 500 scientists. In 1922, two flights, so-called philosophical ship from Petrograd to Stettin and several ships from the territory of Ukraine and trains from Moscow on the personal instructions of Lenin were expelled. 225 intellectuals. Of the emigrants, only a small part returned, such as Marina Tsvetareva and Alexei Tolstoy. By the mid-1930s, the Soviet government sealed the borders. Traveling to capitalist countries was only possible to employees of the Foreign Ministry, the nomenklatura, and selected artists, while most ordinary Soviet citizens had the opportunity to travel only in socialist countries for trade union tour. The third and final wave of Soviet emigration coincided with the rupture of relations with Israel. June 10, 1968, the Central Committee received a joint letter to the leadership of the Foreign Ministry and the KGB signed by Andrei Gromyko and Yuri Andropov to the proposal to allow Soviet Jews to emigrate from the country. As a result, in the 1970s the Soviet Union had left only about 4,000 people, many against the will. For example, such well-known dissidents like Brodsky, Aksionov, Aleshkovsky, Voinovich, Dovlatov, Gorenstein, Galik. May 20, 1991. A few months before the collapse of the USSR, the last Soviet law on the exit of citizens abroad was adopted, according to which citizens could leave at the request of the state, public and religious organizations and enterprises. The Russian Federation. In 1993, exit visas were cancelled and allowed a free issue of passports. The right to freely leave the country was enshrined in the new law of 1996. Passports with the symbols of the Soviet Union were issued to citizens of the Russian Federation until the end of 2000, respectively expire in the early years of the 21st century, about 10 years after the dissolution of the Soviet state. Since 2001, Russian passports were issued with the new design, which includes the emblem of Russia, a double-headed eagle. Since 2010, the application for registration of passport can be submitted via the website www.Gosuslugi.ru. In 2006, biometric passports were introduced in Russia. Since 2009, in all regions of Russia there are points of issue of passport and visa documents of new generation. The data of these items come in a single personalization center data. On March 1, 2010, biometric passports are valid for 10 years. The data on the chip Russian passports are protected by Technology Access Control (BAC), which allows you to read data only after entering the passport number, date of birth of the holder and the expiration date of the passport, which excludes unauthorized access to data on the chip. Description: each passport has a data page and a signature page. A data page has a visual zone and a machine-readable zone. The visual zone has a digitized photograph of the passport holder, data about the passport, and data about the passport owner. Photograph: type of document, code of the issuing country, passport number, surname, given name, nationality, date of birth, place of birth, sex, date of issue, date of expiration, authority, A facsimile of the owner's signature, scanned from the application form. At the bottom of the data page is a machine-readable zone, which can be read both visually and by an optical scanner. The machine-readable zone consists of 2 lines. There are no blank spaces in either line. A space which does not contain a letter or a number is filled with &LT. The first line of the machine-readable zone contains a letter to denote the type of travel document, the code for the citizenship of the passport holder, and the name of the passport holder. The second line of the machine-readable zone contains the passport number, the code of the issuing country, the date of birth of the passport holder, a notation of the sex, gender of the passport owner, the date of expiration of the passport, and, at the very end of the line, 1 or more overall check digits. A signature page has a line for the signature of a passport holder. A passport is not valid unless it is signed by the passport owner. Visa-free travel. Visa requirements for Russian citizens are administrative entry restrictions by the authorities of other countries placed on citizens of Russia. In 2015, Russian citizens had visa-free on arrival access to 102 countries and territories, ranking the Russian passport 49th in the world according to the Visa Restrictions Index. Foreign travel statistics. According to the national statistics, these are the numbers of Russian visitors arriving to various countries per annum in 2014. Types of passports. Regular issuable to all citizens of the Russian Federation. Period of validity is 10 years from date of issue. Diplomatic. Issuable to Russian diplomats accredited overseas and their eligible dependents, and to citizens who reside in the Russian Federation and travel abroad for diplomatic work. Passport issued for the period of work, but no more than 10 years. Service. Issuable to citizen employees of the Russian Federation and its federal subjects assigned overseas, their eligible dependents, to members of Russian Parliament who travel abroad on official business, and to judges of Supreme and Constitutional Courts. Also issued to military personnel when deployed overseas. Period of validity. Length of service, but not to exceed 10 years. Certificate for return. Issuable to Russian citizens and nationals overseas, in urgent circumstances. This document is valid only for return to Russian Federation. Depictions of the different types of Russian passports. Issue time. According to the federal law and the orders from 2012 and 2014 for the old 5-year laminated and the new 10-year biometric passport, respectively, either document has to be issued within 1 to 4 months, depending on circumstances, with the issue time being 3 months in case of an application being made to a consulate outside of Russia. However, in practice, some consulates require an appointment to be made prior to the applicant being able to provide documents to apply for the passport. In some cases, appointments can only be available many months or even possibly years into the future, effectively undoing the upper limit for a timely issuance of the travel document. Additionally, if passports are expired or lost, applications for the new passport are routinely declined to be accepted when abroad, prior to the verification of citizenship, for which the consuls require a separate application to be made, either in person or notarized by a notary public, with the processing times for verification itself often exceeding many months. Such practice of causing the extra costs for the applicant, however, seems to be in violation of point 23 of Orders 10,303 from the 28th of June 2012 and 3,744 from the 19th of March 2014, which guarantee that no extra services are required in order to apply for a passport.